Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all. In prison, every day, you have to find a reason to get up. Every day, you got to find that motivation to get out that bunk, put your feet on that cold floor, and get up and go about making your day into something that's worthwhile. Positive or negative, it is what it is. That's just where we're at. Now, some of us, we decide to look to God. Some look to the law books. Some look to dope. Some look to alcohol, boys, women, whatever, right? But we're finding something to latch on to give us some kind of purpose, some kind of meaning to get up in the morning. Now, this story is about this dude named, let's call him, what do you want to call him? We're going to call him Robert. Now, Robert, he had been in prison for about 17 years. And during that time, he focused on the law all day, every day, fighting, trying to get back in. See, when you file your case in court, right, when you on appeal or something like that, if you go to trial, you have a year, you know what I'm saying, to get your stuff in court, keep it in court. And if you go past that year, you get time bar. That means you can't come back in. You got to come back in on newly discovered evidence. File a postconviction, something to get back in. And that's what happened to Robert, because when he first got convicted, he's in here for murder. When he first got convicted, he was like most people in here, shell-shocked, not really understanding what was going on, trying to make sense of it all. And he didn't really grasp hold to what was happening to him for 3 or 4 years. By then, the lawyers that he had, which were paid lawyers, because Robert comes from money, you know what I'm saying, all this and that, right? He was a con artist and things like that, but he ended up in a situation where his wife got killed. So they blamed it on him. He is adamant that he didn't do it. Adamant. So after his lawyers filed the appeal and all this and that, he's not paying attention because he's, like I say, he's in shock. He's one of these individuals that thought the system worked a certain way, And when he was going through all the motions and things didn't work out, he thought that he could say this and say that and it would get him home, right? And when his lawyers finished doing what they was doing, they got on down. No more money, no more representation. So now he unsnapped too. He's having to do it all himself, working on his case constantly, over and over, year after year, filing things in court, being denied, writing to colleges, getting professors to help him, getting law students to help him, and all of these different types of things are going on. And he's slowly becoming like transfixed on nothing but the law. All his conversations revolve around his case and what the law says and what they were doing, right or wrong. And he started to create scenarios for himself that were not real. The evidence that he had against him was overwhelming. But the only way he could get back in court was with newly discovered evidence. So in his mind, he created scenarios that would get him back in court. His wife was found dead. He says that she left the house and didn't come back, but they have cameras at the house to show that she never left. He said that the cameras didn't work. And this became his reality. It became his reality. So he started to build a whole appeal around the idea that she left the house. He didn't know. He was asleep. He started to believe it. And just when he thought he would have people convinced of it, his case would come on TV. And they would get to talking about all the different things that happen. And most people in prison love to watch TV, love to watch crime shows, but they don't believe them. Listen to me. They're like, if I'm looking at one, and I rarely look at them. I'm one of those few people that I don't care nothing about that kind of stuff. But I look at one and I see the evidence that they present and I say, oh, he did it, or he didn't do it, or whatever the case may be. Most people in prison, they'll say that the person did it, no matter what, unless it's their case. Period. Now, they'll say that the people on TV lie, these shows lie about this is but their case. But anybody else, they got it on point. You feel what I'm saying? So he was like that. He's watching his own case play out on TV. And, excuse me, and he's pointing out to anybody that'll listen the holes in it. And he's trying to get them to see it his way. And a lot of people will indulge you in conversation in here, even though they may not believe a word that's coming out of your mouth. They'll sit there and let you talk and let you talk and let you say all of these different types of things and don't believe nothing that you're saying. But because you are in here with them, they'll let it roll. And then as soon as you walk off, guess what they're saying? Man, dude crazy. He ain't got the sense God gave a peanut. All of those types of things, right? And people do it for fun, for sport. So Robert is going on and on and on about his situation and not really seeing how people are talking about him when he's not there. He don't care. He's come to believe it, and every day he's getting up, fighting and fighting and fighting. So Robert caught a big break. He caught a big break. The college, the local college, had this professor. And this professor, you know, he had all of these law students. And these law students were eager to get involved in Robert's case. So Robert, he sent them the transcripts. And they also got a copy of the transcripts from the courthouse. And he was pointing out the mistakes and the errors in his case with the transcripts that they had and he had, which were the same. And he's telling them, she left the house. But he can't prove it because there are no camera. But they wanted to believe that he was innocent. They wanted to believe it. To teach the students that were going to eventually become lawyers how the system worked. So they were all into it. And they had told him that, you know, they were going to go to court, they were going to file a post-conviction. And a post-conviction, you know, his post-conviction anyway was saying that his lawyer had been ineffective, meaning ineffective assistance of counsel, right? Meaning his lawyer didn't help him the right way in ways that could have made the case better. His lawyer didn't do it. So when they went to court, they're up in there, they're fighting. And the judge, he decides for whatever reason, because there's a lot of he say, she say, and this, that, and that, so he postpones it. So Robert has to come back to the prison. When he's back at the prison, he's back in the prison for months. And months turn to years. And during that time, he's writing these lawyers. He's staying in touch with them and they're staying on the case. Some of them have graduated and gone on to work in law firms. And, excuse me, they still stayed on the case to help him. They still wanted to help him. But they were starting to notice holes in the case, you know, because they were getting a little bit more experience in working cases, criminal cases. So they started to notice holes in the case, and they would come to the prison, they would talk to him. And whenever they said anything that didn't make sense to him, he would get angry. He would get angry and tell them to leave. But that law professor stayed with him. Then the law professor got sick. He got sick, and he practiced that was good to help Robert with his case. And the day came for him to go to court. And he's at court. He leaves the prison out the court. He's at the county jail. Well, first they took him to a prison in that area, right? And he's waiting to go to trial. Now, while he's there in holding at the prison, a lot of guys are noticing, recognizing him. And so they start talking about his case, talking about this, talking about that. And they're asking him, why are you going back in there? Do you not understand what these folks going to do to you? If you get this post-conviction, they just start all over. He knows this stuff. He's been studying the law for a long time now. He understood what he was facing. And that fantasy that he had created, they bought into it. They bought into it, and they started to believe it, and they were looking at him like, okay, this is it. He's finna go in there, he's finna beat these people. So the day comes, and they take him into the courtroom. It's a post-conviction hearing. His first trial lawyer comes in, gets up on the stand, testifies to what he did and what he didn't do. Robert's lawyer cross-examines him and asks him specific things about why didn't he bring up that the wife left? Why didn't he bring up that the vehicle that had the tracks in the driveway had been stolen? All of these different types of things that could point to someone else. Why didn't he bring up the mistress that Robert had just visited the house that night? And Robert fell asleep on the couch, and when he wakes up the next day, his wife is dead. Why didn't he mention any of these types of things, right? So his lawyer is trying to explain himself and saying, look, all of these things came up, and they ran them down, and there was no way to substantiate what Robert was saying. There was no way to prove what he was saying. So they decided their strategy was to not bring it up. So they didn't even bring it up in his defense. So as the process continues to play out, the judge wants to hear more. And now they bring in other witnesses for Robert that could testify to certain things, but none of them could testify to the fact that his wife had left the house. None of them. None of them. And then they introduced the star witness, the witness that was an old cellar that he had in the county jail. And this cellar says that Robert told him how he did it and what he did it and why he did it. So they put this witness on the stand, and he testifies over again that Robert told him that he wanted to leave his wife. His wife was trying to run off with the money, and he wanted to be with this other woman. So he didn't see any other way out, so he killed her. This is what his old cellie testified to. Now the judge is hearing this. It's not a trial, y'all. The judge is hearing this, and Robert's lawyer gets up and he starts to go over the testimony that his old cellie just gave, and he starts to look as if he's breaking him down. And now his old cellie had gotten out of prison, okay? Gotten out of prison, been doing good and working and everything like that, taking care of his family, his wife and kids and all this and that. And he told him, he said, have you done this before? Have you testified against people before to get out of jail, to get out of prison sentence? And he sentenced, right? Because this is what they do. They won't make a deal with the person that's going to testify against you. They'll just nod and wink and say, look, we'll make sure you're straight. Because if they make a deal for the testimony, you got to reveal that to the defense, and then they can bring it up and use that to impeach the testimony that the person is about to give. So he didn't actually have a deal. It was an understood type of thing that they would help him, and they did. When he went, up for his sentencing, they cut him some slack. He still went to prison, but he ended up getting out, and the DA didn't protest when he came up for parole. That was the deal. So now he's repeating all of this, and the judge is listening. So Robert's lawyer goes and sits down. He said, well, now we got to wait for the judge to decide if your lawyer was ineffective in the case. So they go in the back, and they're waiting. The judge says it's going to take him a couple of days to make a decision, so they take Robert back to the county jail. And while he's in the county jail, lo and behold, the case comes on TV, and it plays over and over all night. And Robert he did it. And he's panicking because he's hoping the judge is not watching it, not understanding that the judge knows the case inside out. And this is the same judge that sentenced him. You got to go back in front of the trial judge, right? So he's panicking, thinking that the judge is going to see this and rule against him and all this and that. So the judge comes back out. A couple of days later, and he rules in Robert's favor and says that his lawyer was ineffective in the case and how he presented it, right? So that allowed for Robert's case to be retried. So the DA kept putting the case off. Now, Robert had somebody reach out to the dude that testified against him. And the dude told him, he said, look, I'm going up in there, I'm going to tell the truth. So Robert, in his mind, felt like, if I could just get somebody to talk to him, he'll understand. And if I need to, I'll pay him. So he tries that. He gets somebody in the jail that he does not know, that says he can do it for a fee. And he pays him. And then the guy leaves, goes to the phone, calls a friend, tells a friend what happened, and they tell Robert it's going to be taken care of. So they take Robert, they end up, things getting postponed. So they end up taking Robert back to prison. And when he goes back to the prison, he's waiting. Trial date is coming up. It turns out that the trial date is going to be 2 or 3 years, you know what I'm saying, in coming around. And this is right at that 17th year that Robert was in prison. They take him down to trial. He just knows that he's going home. He's told everybody he's going home. He's given away, not all, but most of his stuff. Commissary for sure. Some of his sweatpants. He kept one good pair of sweats in case he didn't have, had to wear that home, because he'd been locked up for a while. He didn't have any clothes. He'd gained a lot of weight. So he's gone to trial. He gets down there, and before he goes in, his lawyer says that he has some bad news. They had introduced to the judge a new witness. A new witness was going to be testifying in the case. So Robert was like, who is it and what is it about? The guy that he had talked to in the county jail that had said that he could get somebody to go out there and get the first witness to change his testimony. Turns out that he took that evidence and called the DA's office and told the DA that Robert had just paid him to get somebody on the streets to get the first witness to change his story. And the DA had told Robert's attorney, listen, it's best that you go ahead and drop this case. He's going to re-sentence you to, listen to me, when you get a post-conviction, the DA gets another shot. You know what I'm saying? Now, he had a life sentence, but this life sentence that he had was with parole, right? Now, because the case started all over, the DA gets another shot. And he was telling Robert, through his attorney, if he persisted in this pursuit, that he was going to sentence him, or suggest to the judge to sentence him to life without parole. But if he changed his mind right now and dropped this, that they would reinstate the life with parole. And, if he lived long enough, he could get out. Now let me explain something to you. The life with parole is 51 years. The life without parole is everything. Now Robert was already in his 40s. Already in his 40s. And he's looking at the situation like, what do I do? And his lawyer told him, you know what? If you want to know what his lawyer, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode. And it's coming up, y'all. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I'm getting so tired.